Hi everyone, I'm Kate. I'm an English teacher here on Verbling, and today's class is for beginning learners, and it's about comparatives and superlatives. Okay, so we already have some students here. Hi Anna.
Hello, how are you, Kathleen?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good, nice to see you again. All right, and then Fidel.
Morning. Good morning.
Hi. Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Good. Fidel, where are you calling from?
I'm from Guatemala in Central America.
Oh, very cool.
Thank
Cool.
you.
Okay, nice to meet you. And then Sergio. Hi.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
fine, thanks. Thank you.
Good. Where are you calling from?
I'm from Italy.
From Italy. Okay, great. Nice to have you here. And hi, Sungming.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Okay, so um, I think we're still waiting for a few other students to arrive, but I'll give you an idea of what we're going to do today. So today's class is about making comparisons, right? Talking about two different things and being able to, or more things, and being able to use the comparative and superlative adjectives to show the relationship between these two or more things. Okay, so essentially I'll give an introduction to the grammar. We'll do some exercises so you can sort of work through the rules on your own, and then we'll practice speaking to make sure you really know how to use these different comparative and superlative forms. Okay, so has anyone studied? Hi, Ellie.
Hi, Kate.
Hi, how's it
How are
going?
you? It's going well. How are you?
Good, very good, thanks. Okay, so has anyone studied these comparative and superlative adjectives before?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes, me too.
you have. Okay, so can someone give me an example sentence using a comparative?
Susan is more intelligent than Pedro, for example.
Okay, good. I don't know, did you say Pedro? I couldn't hear you. But excellent, yeah, she's comparing two people and she's using a comparative. More intelligent.
Oh,
Okay?
Maybe Susan is more smarter than Pedro.
Okay, almost. You have one extra word.
mm, oh.
Susan
You're
is smarter than
oh,
Pedro,
smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Because if you add the er at the end, you can't add more also. And we'll go into the rules for that. Okay, but very good. Another good example. Okay, so I want you to listen, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my family. Okay, and I want you to listen for any comparative and superlative adjectives that you hear or that you think you hear, and try to remember them. Okay? So, okay. So, Antonio, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Yeah. Hello, I'm
Okay.
fine, thanks.
Hi.
And you?
Good. Doing well, thanks. So, I just told everyone I'm going to say a few sentences about my family, and I want you to listen and make a note of any comparative or superlative adjectives that you hear. So make a note of the words I'm using to make these comparisons. Okay? All right. So I come from a big family. There are 6 people in my family. including me. So my mom and my dad, and then 4 children. I am the youngest of all of my brothers and sisters. My oldest brother is very smart. He's a lawyer, and he works harder than anyone. My next brother is probably not as smart as my oldest brother, but he is the most creative of all of us. He's very talented at art. My older sister is also much more creative than I am, but she's not as talented as my brother, who is an artist. However, my older sister is the most musical of all of us. Okay, so what were some of the words I was using to make these comparisons?
Youngest.
Youngest? Good.
Oldest brother.
Old.
Oldest? Okay. So these are superlatives, right? When we're talking about the most, the maximum, or the minimum. Okay?
Work harder than.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Most creative.
Excellent. Most creative. Again, another superlative.
Most musical.
Most musical. Another super.
More creative.
Good, yeah. More creative.
More creative. Yeah.
Good. And that's a comparative. A comparative. Okay. Good. So yeah, those are some of the words I was using. And notice that you can use the 2 ways we form them are by adding more or most before an adjective, or by adding er or est after an adjective. And we will see why in just a second. Okay, so any questions so far?
No, no question.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you, and I have a little activity. And I think instead of me telling you the rules for how we form these comparatives and superlatives, I want to see if you can figure them out. Okay? So I'm going to share my screen. Hold on.
Oh, she's gone.
Sorry, that happens sometimes. Okay. All right, let me try that again. Hopefully the computer doesn't crash. All right, let's see what happens here. Okay. Can you see this?
Very small.
No? Okay.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can see now.
Not
Perfect.
very small. We
All
can.
right, I'll make it bigger. Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Now it's better.
And now?
It's much better.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's okay.
Another comparative. Another comparative is better.
Excellent, it's better.
Better.
Good. Okay, very good. You're learning so much already. Okay, sorry. All right, so here we have the first exercise will be about comparatives. So let's see, Ellie, can you read the instructions for me?
Okay. Exercise 1. Read the sentences below and then give the comparative form for each of the adjectives listed.
Okay, so essentially, you're going to have to figure out the comparative forms. Okay? First we have 3 example sentences that use comparatives. Okay, so let's see. Can I have someone read sentence number 1?
Me.
Go ahead.
Tennis is a more difficult sport than rugby.
Excellent. Okay, so in this sentence, what is the comparative?
More difficult. More.
Yeah, more difficult. Good. Right? Because you could say, so essentially what we're saying is rugby is difficult, right? But tennis is more difficult. Right? So this is the adjective difficult by itself, right? And we're saying that relative to rugby, tennis is even more difficult. It's extra difficult. Okay? And I should have mentioned this before, but what is the role of an adjective in a sentence? What does an adjective do?
Give more information
Yeah, it gives information about what?
about the verb or about the I forget.
It's okay. Not about the verb, but about the noun.
The
Right?
noun.
Noun.
So we're saying, so difficult is describing rugby. More difficult is describing tennis. Right? So these adjectives are always describing nouns. So when we're making these comparative and superlative statements, we're trying to show the similarities and differences between 2 nouns. So people, places, things. Okay? All right. So can I have someone read the second example sentence?
I think John is happier now than a years ago.
Than a year ago. Good. All right. And what's the comparative in this sentence?
Happier.
Excellent. Okay. So here, what are we comparing?
Time, now and a year ago.
Uh-huh. We're comparing now and a year ago. But more specifically, what are we comparing?
How is
Happiness.
John?
Yeah, exactly. So here we're looking at a change over time, right? So we're looking at John's happiness now versus John's happiness a year ago. So this one isn't quite as easy to see, right, what we're comparing, but this is also very common. Okay, good. Can someone read example sentence 3?
Okay. Could you open the window, please? It's getting hotter in this room by the minute.
Good. And what's the comparative?
Hotter.
Hotter. Good. All right. One thing here, so this is curious. In American English especially, listen to how we pronounce this. Hotter. Hotter. It's
Hotter.
almost like it's a D, right?
Yeah.
And if you're hearing British English, they would say something a little bit different, but especially in American English, we tend to pronounce T's as D's. Hotter. Okay, just a small note. Okay, good, Ellie. So what are we comparing in this sentence?
The temperature in this room.
Mm-hmm. the temperature in this room to what? Because we always have to be comparing two things.
The temperature in the same room before.
Yeah, good. Okay, so this one again is sort of a change over time, right? It's getting hotter in this room by the minute. So it's sort of the idea is we're saying each minute we're comparing the temperature to the minute before, right? If you really sort of break down what this sentence means. Okay, so the temperature in this room now to the temperature a minute ago to the temperature a minute before that, etc. All right. Any questions?
No.
Okay. So notice again that sometimes we use more before the adjective to make the comparative. And sometimes we add er after the adjective to make the comparative. So I want you to see if you can figure out what the comparative forms of all of these adjectives are, and if we use more before or er after, and see if you can work out what the rules are. So when do we use more? When do we use er to make the comparative? Okay? So take a few minutes and try to figure out the comparative adjective for all of these adjectives on your own, and then we'll review it. And let me know when you've finished so I know when to start reviewing. All right, so let's start to go over this. It's okay if you're not quite finished because the idea is that we'll review it together. Okay, so what is the comparative of more interesting? Can someone do this one? Oh, sorry, I just said it.
More. You said.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you.
so I gave you the first one as an example on purpose. Okay. All right, can someone do the second one? So here, yeah, we add more and it becomes more interesting, right? So I think science is more interesting than math, for an example. Okay, weak. What is the comparative?
Weaker.
Weaker. Good, Ellie. All right. So this table is weaker than the one I have at home. All right. What about this one? What is the comparative for funny?
Funnier.
How do you spell it, Anna?
Funne
I.
IR.
I-E-R, right?
Okay.
Okay, good. All right, so what happened here? We took the Y and we changed the Y to I and added ER. Okay, so that's a spelling change. Good. So the comedian is funnier than I am, right? Okay. What happens to important in the comparative?
More.
More important. Good. What happens to careful?
More.
More careful. Good, Ellie.
And teacher, sorry.
Yes.
When we use more or the final R?
Okay, good question. Let's finish going through all of these and then let's see if we can find the patterns and we'll work out the rules. So don't worry, you'll have very clear rules by the end of this activity. Okay?
Mm,
All right. So big, what happens to
thank
big?
you.
Bigger.
Bigger.
Bigger, how do you spell it?
B-I.
G.
E-R.
G. Yeah, double G. Good. What about small?
Smaller.
Smaller.
Excellent. Polluted.
More.
More.
More polluted.
More polluted. Good. Boring.
More boring.
More
More
boring.
boring. Excellent. And angry.
Angrier.
How do you spell it?
A-N-G-R-I-E-R.
Excellent. Okay. So now the question is, how do we know when to use more and when to use ER? Okay, and this is one of the very few times where we actually have a concrete rule in English. Okay, so there's a very specific rule which doesn't often happen in English. So this is a great topic to explain because it actually makes sense. Okay, so does anyone know the answer to that? Why we use ER sometimes and why we use more sometimes?
Yes. If the adjective is more than two syllables,
Mm-hmm.
we use more, and maybe one syllable or two syllable we use er.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to try to write some rules here. Good. So absolutely correct, Ellie. If it's three syllables or more, we add more in front of the adjective, right?
But not all the time, right? The boring is different.
Correct. So now we'll look at this. Oops. Okay. All right. So three syllables or more, we add more in front of the adjective. And then you said one syllable, what happens?
ER.
Add ER to the end of the adjective. All right. Oh, bye, Fidelino. Okay. Let's see. And then now is where it gets confusing. With two-syllable adjectives, okay, so let's look. So we have
Boring.
angry. Yeah, so we have these two right here, right? Boring, 2 syllables. It turns into more boring. But angry, also 2 syllables, turns into angrier. But there is a rule here. Does anyone have an idea of what the rule is? So for 2-syllable words. I'm going to give you some other examples, and maybe you'll be able to figure it out.
When the adjective ends in J.
In Y.
In what?
First sleeper.
In Y, right? Yeah, absolutely, Anna. So here, so this is the rule. 2-syllable ending in Y. We add, change the Y to, and add ER. So if it's a 2-syllable adjective that ends in Y, that's when we add ER. Okay? But if it's a 2-syllable word that ends in anything else but Y, what do we do?
Add more
Mm-hmm.
in front of the adjective.
Okay, so, oops. So here we have the rules, right? So 1 syllable, we add ER to the end, right? Like big, bigger, small, smaller. Another example, cold, colder, hot, hotter. Okay? 2-syllable ending in Y, we change the Y to I and add ER. 2-syllable that ends in anything else, like careful, boring, we add more in front. And 3 syllables or more, right? This is when we add more in front of the adjective, always. Interesting, more interesting. Okay.
Question.
Yes.
But we add a small ER, I think.
Mm-hmm.
What's difference angry and small?
So small is 1 syllable. Small.
Small,
Angry. Sorry.
small is one syllable or
Small
two?
is 1 syllable.
Okay.
So that's the difference because we have angry, but here we just have small. Right? There's only one vowel, and usually we break up syllables according to vowel sounds. Okay, so that's a check. All right, any other questions? Okay, good. Thank you for your patience with that. I know it's a lot of information. All right, so now I want to talk about superlatives. So before with comparatives, we were talking about the differences between 2 things. Now with superlatives, we're talking about one thing that stands out in a group of things. One thing that is the most or the best. Right? So we're comparing now many things, more than 2 things. Okay. So here we're going to do something very similar to the last exercise, and it should go quickly because the rules are the same. All right, so let's just read the examples. Can someone read sentence 1?
New York has got to be the most exciting city in the world.
Thank you, Anna. And what's the superlative?
The most exciting.
Good, the most exciting, right? So you could say Barcelona is an exciting city. Paris is more in the world, right? So here, just an example, right? So Barcelona is an exciting city. This is the adjective by itself. Paris is more exciting. What is more exciting? What is this?
Comparative.
A comparative. Good, thank you. And New York is the most exciting, right? A superlative. So out of all of the cities. All right, good. Can someone read sentence number 2?
His biggest desire is to return home.
Good, thank you. And the superlative?
Biggest desire.
Biggest. Good. Right, the superlative here is biggest. Okay, good. And the last sentence, can someone read this?
She is probably the angriest person I know.
Good. She's probably the angriest person I know. What's the superlative?
Angriest?
Great. Okay, and notice that the spelling rules are the same, right? So with big, we have to double the G. With angry, we change the Y to I.
Mhm.
All right, and so here, instead of adding more or ER, we're adding most or EST. Okay, so take a minute and do the same thing. I want you to this time write the superlative forms of these words. Okay, this should go quickly because the rules are the same. So just take a minute and think about what are the superlative forms for all of these adjectives. All right, so let's review this. So what is the superlative form of interesting?
Most.
Most interesting. Of weak?
Weakest.
Yes, weakest. Good. Funny?
Funniest.
Good. And how do you spell it?
With I. No
Good.
W.
Funniest. Excellent. Important?
Most important.
Good. Careful?
Most careful.
Good. Most careful. Big?
Biggest.
Biggest.
Biggest. Okay, and
With double G.
good. And does anyone know why do we double the G here?
Because it has only one syllabus.
It has one syllable. And we have a consonant, vowel, consonant. When we have that combination of letters, a consonant, vowel, consonant, in a one-syllable word, we double the last letter to make the comparative. Okay, so like if you had the word red, we have consonant, vowel, consonant, and it changes to redder with two D's. Okay?
Are there any example of adjective with two with one syllable but without double the last letter?
That is an exception, you're saying? Or that does not double the
It is,
consonant?
see.
Yes?
Are there any exception?
I think so. Let me think about that, and I will get back to you.
Okay.
I'll let me think about that. Yeah, there definitely are. Nothing comes to mind right now. But if they did not follow this pattern, right, of consonant, vowel, consonant, then you would not double the last letter. Okay. And I'll think of a good example. All right. So small. What happens?
Smallest.
Smallest. Good. Polluted.
Most polluted.
Most polluted. Good. Boring.
Most boring.
Most boring. The last one.
Angriest.
The angriest. Good. And the Y changes to I. Okay. Good. You did it. Perfect. So, any questions here? All right. So now, finally, we have some time to practice this. All right. So, I want you to look at these two pictures of different houses. Oops. Being slow. All right, so here you have two different houses. I'll make this smaller. All right. And I want you to compare these two houses. Okay? And I'll listen to what you're saying, and we'll write some sentences together about these houses. So using comparative adjectives, I want you to compare these two houses.
A question.
Yes.
Anna asked one syllable adjective. If we use new.
Newer. Good. Excellent. Yeah. Good. Yeah. So newer, you don't double the W.
Okay.
Okay. And other examples: clean, cleaner; small, smaller; long, longer; plain, plainer. Right? With those, we're not doubling the vowel or the consonant at the end. Or there are adjectives like odd, O-D-D, where we can't double the D because it's already doubled. Right? So odd, odder, things like that. Okay, yeah, good example, Ellie. All right. Okay, so let's hear some comparisons between these two houses.
The second one bigger than the first one.
Good, except you're missing a verb. You said the second house bigger than the first one.
Yeah.
You're missing a verb. Do you know what's missing?
House or
Simply is, right? You just need the is. So,
yeah,
great. The second house is bigger than the first one. Okay, great.
The first house is older than the second one.
Excellent. The first house is older than the second one. Excellent, Anna. Other sentences about these houses.
The first house is smaller than the first one. The first.
Yeah, good, than the second one. The first house is smaller than the second one. Good.
the second house is more expensive than the first one.
The second house is more expensive than the first one. Absolutely.
Or the first house is cheaper than the second one.
Great. Excellent, Ellie. The first house is less expensive or cheaper, right? Because cheap is one syllable, than the second one. Great.
The first house is more natural than the second one.
The first house is more natural. Absolutely. Good.
The second house is higher than the first.
Absolutely. It's higher than the first one. Good. Mm-hmm. Very good.
The first house is cooler than the second one.
Is what?
Cool.
Cooler. I agree.
Mhm.
It's cooler, right? It has more style. It's more, it's interesting. It's interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
good, Ellie. Any others? Okay, good. All right, so a lot of good comparisons. All right, any questions about this? Okay, so now we're going to do an activity, a speaking activity, using comparatives and superlatives. Okay, so what I want you to do, let's see, actually, Anna, can you read the instructions here for exercise 3?
Okay. Choose one of the topics below and think of 3 examples from that topic. For example, sports, football, basketball, and surfing. Compare the 3 objects.
Okay, right, so you have these 6 categories, and I want you to think of 3 things. So first, you choose a category, right? And then I want you to think of 3 things within that category and compare them. And since you have more than 2, it means you can use both comparatives and superlatives. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Let's see, I'm going to choose cities, right? So kind of like I did before. So if my category is cities, let's see, I could choose Washington, New York, and Los Angeles, right? 3 cities in the US. And I might say something like, Washington is the best city because it's my hometown. But I do admit that New York is cooler, right? New York is more interesting than Washington. It has more activities and more culture. Los Angeles has better weather than New York. In fact, it has the best weather of the group. But Los Angeles is more crowded and it's dirtier. The streets are less clean than in Washington. Right? Okay, so that was kind of an example off the top of my head. I could have gone on, but really just comparing different things about 3 things in one category. Okay, questions? All right, so I'll give you a minute to think about what category you want to use and what 3 things you want to compare. And then I'm just going to ask each person to speak for a minute about their category. Okay, is anyone ready?
Well, I can talk about cars.
About cars. Okay, great. Okay,
Yes.
so cars, go ahead.
Okay. A question. In England, it's usually to talk about 3 or 5 doors in the cars.
Yeah, you can talk about,
Yes.
well, no, we say 2-door or 4-door cars.
2 or 4. Okay.
2 or 4.
Well, okay. I'm going to talk about this.
Okay.
Well, there are 2 kinds of cars: the cars with two doors, and cars with 4 doors. Well, I think the cars with 2 doors are less comfortable than uh, well, 4 doors are uh, more comfortable than two doors.
Good.
I think mm, with cars with 2 doors, you can go more, you can go faster because cars with 2 doors normally or usually are cars, deportive cars.
Are sports cars.
Sport cars. Okay.
Good.
Well, is cars with 4 doors are usually mm, direct direct to more direct to families.
Okay, they're more useful for families.
More useful for family. Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, good. Thank you very much. So a lot of good
Thank you.
comparatives, right? Bigger, faster, more useful. I'm forgetting what he said, but a lot of great comparatives, both using more and using ER. Okay, good. All right, and so since we had only 2 objects, there were no superlatives, right? But that's okay because you had a lot of good comparatives. Okay, would anyone else like to go?
Me, for example,
Okay.
I want to talk about films.
Okay.
I compare Forrest Gump, Transformers, and Star Wars.
Okay.
The most newest of all is Transformers, but is the worst film of all.
Okay.
Forest Transformer is more longer. No, is longer than
Is longer.
is longer than Forrest Gump, but no, sorry. Transformer is more longer than Star Wars, but
Is longer.
is
Not more
longer than
longer.
Star Wars. But Forrest Gump is the most long of all. In Star Wars, no, the Star Wars protagonists are better than Transformer protagonists.
Good.
Um,
Okay. Anything else? Okay, that was
no,
good.
nothing else.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Anna. So, two small problems. Okay, you have the tendency to add most or more and the ending, right? And I know you caught yourself doing that too, right? You said most longest, and then you said no, longest, right? So just to make sure, right? It's never most longest, it's longest. And then I also heard you say most long later, which isn't correct, right? Because long is one syllable, so you have to add est. So there it's just longest by itself. Good. And
Okay.
the same thing with most newest, just simply the newest, right? But otherwise, very good. Any questions?
It's okay.
Okay, good. Let's see, Ali, Suming, would you like to try?
Okay, maybe me.
All right, go ahead, Ali.
I want to talk about sports.
Good.
I compare soccer, basketball, and tennis.
Okay.
Okay. But American are like basketball more than soccer, but the soccer is the most popular sport in the world, and I like tennis. I think tennis players are earn more money than basketball players.
Okay, good. Good.
And uh, uh, usually two or four player play tennis, and number of basketball players more than the tennis.
Okay, yeah, good. So
Okay.
basketball has more players than tennis.
Yeah,
Okay,
and soccer has the most players.
good. Soccer has the most players of the three.
Of the three.
Great. Good, Ali. Okay, so good. A lot of good uses of comparatives and superlatives, right? So Americans like basketball more, but soccer is the most popular sport in the world. Basketball has more players than tennis, but soccer has the most of the three, right? Very good, Ellie. All right. And Ming, would you like to try?
Um, mm, um, The American is more uh, bigger than the British,
Okay.
and your English is more fluent than me, uh, and you are younger than me, and uh, mm, uh, um, mm, the mm, the airplane is faster than the ship.
Okay. Good. Yeah. So
Uh,
some comparisons from all over. Okay.
um,
Good.
the uh, the military of America is most strong in the world.
Okay. So
Uh,
the military is the strongest.
yeah, and and the moon is smaller than the Earth. Uh,
Okay.
and, I think that's all.
Okay. All right. Good. Yeah. So comparing America to other countries, essentially, and some other things. Okay. Kind of a mixed bag of comparisons. All right. So I'm going to come back for the end of class. Oh, I can't. My screen is frozen. Let's see. All right. Oh, here we go. Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. My
We can
screen
see
is
you.
frozen. Okay, great. So, oh, here we go. All right. So, before we go, I just want you to tell me, how would you compare English to your native language? We'll end the class with that. How would you compare English to your native language?
English is more difficult
English is more difficult. Okay.
than my native language.
Okay.
The English is uh, more easier easier than my native language.
English is easier than your native language.
Yes,
Okay.
because my language have a light tone.
Ah, okay. So you speak Cantonese, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So, um, I think my computer is frozen. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, we're out of time. I want to thank you all for coming to class. I hope that was helpful. I appreciate your participation, and I hope to see you all again soon. Okay? So have a
Okay.
great day.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Thank
for
Bye,
your class.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.